Russia breaking news. Putin called up 150,000 men for military service, but they won't fight in Ukraine. There are 2 annual conscription campaigns in Russia, and new legislation has made it harder for males to avoid them. Putin has once again issued a decree enlisting 150,000 soldiers in the Russian military. Documents posted on the Kremlin website reveal that this is a part of Russia's biannual conscription drive. Statista reports that there are over 1.32 million active military people and 2 million reserve military personnel in Russia, and that all men are obligated to complete 1 year of compulsory military duty. During call-up periods, many Russians will do anything to avoid receiving conscription papers. Russian lawmakers passed a law in April 2017 that makes it harder to avoid the draft by allowing military officials to use an online state services portal that is already popular for taxes to summon people to the draft office instead of physical documents. Russian lawmakers have also raised penalties for anyone who ignore draft notices and do not report to enlisting offices. Men attempting to avoid the draft face fines of up to £250, 30,000 rubles, which is 10 times the previous maximum fine, according to the bill, which became effective on October 1 last year. Since individuals undergoing their annual draft cannot be lawfully transported to combat outside of Russia, the Russian Defense Ministry had previously attempted to reassure conscripts that they would not be sent to the front in Ukraine. The partial mobilization that Putin imposed in September 2022, however, resulted in the accidental deployment of some conscripts to the front. Russian officials continue to bring up the invasion of the Eastern European nation, so many troops who have finished basic training feel pressured to volunteer for the continuing special military operation. This conscription drive is the first of its kind to take place after a legislative expansion of the pool of eligible men for military service. The Russian parliament increased the minimum age for military service from 27 to 30 in a July decision. The new law went into force on January 1. Before this law, all males in good health in Russia were required to serve 1 year in the military while they were between the ages of 18 and 27. Putin signed an order calling 130,000 people during the last autumn conscription campaign in September. Russia intended to enlist 147,000 men at the spring call-up in 2023. Senior officials from the United States and Israel will meet virtually to discuss the Rafah operations, according to a report from Tel Aviv, INS, on April 1. The scheduled meeting time is later in the day on Monday. Senior figures from the Israeli side include Shin Bet Chief Ronen Bar, Mossad Chief David Barnea, and Special Envoy of the U.S. President for the Middle East, Brett McGurk. Since Israel has openly stated its readiness for an all-out assault on Rafah, sources in the Israeli Defense Ministry claim that the U.S. side had alerted Israel of the impending meeting. It is worth noting that the United States has consistently resisted any kind of ground assault in the heavily populated Rafah region, which is located at the southernmost part of the Gaza Strip. Many residents of North and Central Gaza have fled to the Rafah area since the conflict began on October 7, 2023, adding to the estimated 1.3 million people living there. While in Cairo and Riyadh, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with leaders from the Middle East. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi made it plain in their discussion that Blinken must stop an Israeli ground invasion of the Rafah region, which shares its borders with Egypt. Additionally, Egypt has warned Blinken that there will be a huge influx of migrants from Rafah into the Egyptian territory once the incursion starts, which could cause problems. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant of Israel are urging a ground invasion of Rafah to crush Hamas and rescue the captives. Mossad, Shin Bet, and military intelligence in Israel have informed the Israeli War Cabinet that Hamas is on the verge of a military defeat and has only 4 battalions left in the Rafah region. Also, according to the intelligence agencies, there was going to be one last attempt to humiliate Hamas militarily so that proper negotiations could begin to free the captives. The virtual meeting's success depends on how well the U.S. and Israel can resolve their fundamentally different positions on the matter of a military invasion of Rafah.